Over a 70-year life, a person says sorry about 200,000 times. That's more than confessions of love, declarations of independence, or the simple, defiant word, no. This isn't a sign of evolving manners or a peak of civilization. It's a mass epidemic of preemptive surrender. It's a social cough, a primitive reflex designed to expel the toxic fear of someone else's potential aggression before it even has a chance to materialize. In our modern landscape, any deviation from being pleasant is treated as a social crime, so we apologize constantly just to avoid the sentencing. This is the amortization of the self, the slow, steady depreciation of your own worth for the sake of social lubrication. Your brain, soaked in a chronic soup of cortisol, begins to see any social friction as a direct threat to survival. Whether a stranger steps on your foot in a crowded subway or a waiter brings you a plate of cold, inedible food, you instinctively hoist the white flag. The apology acts as a cheap, mass-produced security patch for your nervous system. It creates a perverse dopamine loop where you receive a microdose of relief, not because a problem was solved, but simply because you weren't hit, yelled at, or socially shamed. We are witnessing the emergence of biochemical obedience. Every time you swallow your rightful anger and replace it with a stuttered apology, you are rewiring your neural pathways to prioritize safety over truth. Your amygdala becomes a hypersensitive alarm system that views your own spine as an enemy. You choose humiliation because in the short-term arithmetic of a broken psyche, it feels cheaper than a fight. But this economy is a trap designed to drain you until there is nothing left but a shell. Over time, the sorry reflex erodes your internal compass until it spins aimlessly. You lose the ability to distinguish where your fundamental boundaries end and where the world's unreasonable, greedy demands begin. You become a person with no edges, perfectly rounded, easy for the system to swallow, and even easier for the world to ignore. This bug is a direct result of the concrete box habitat we've built for ourselves. In the wild, animals fight for territory, resources, and respect with brutal honesty. In the 21st century, we apologize for the mere act of breathing. High-density living, stacked in glass and steel, forces us to become socially invisible just to survive the constant, abrasive friction of the crowd. We have traded our evolutionary claws for a reflexive sorry. We are now a domesticated species that punishes its own members for showing even a hint of teeth. We've constructed a world where getting along is the highest virtue, even when it requires being fundamentally wrong. Your guilt is not a personal flaw. It is a high-margin commodity harvested by the architects of the modern world. Corporations love these convenient ghosts, employees and consumers who have been conditioned to believe that their very presence is an inconvenience. The entire economy of unpaid overtime, hustle culture, and toxic management is built on the backs of people who are too afraid to draw a line in the sand. You stay late, you take on the emotional labor of your superiors, and you swallow insults because standing your ground feels like social suicide in a world that worships likability. Think of the modern office as a submission factory. Your manager knows that your sorry is actually a signed, unofficial contract of slavery. They don't need to pay for your loyalty when they can simply harvest your fear of being difficult. They profit from your hesitation, turning your inability to say no into their quarterly bonuses. Your silence is their profit margin. Consider the customer service paradox. You find yourself apologizing to the representative who failed to solve your problem simply because the tension of the following silence is more terrifying than the loss of your hard-earned money. This is the rentability of fear in its purest form. Every time you apologize for their mistake, you are effectively subsidizing their incompetence. On the black market of human dignity, your self-respect is currently trading lower than the price of low-grade fuel in a deep recession. Your depression, born from the agonizing suppression of legitimate rage, is cheaper for the system to manage with pills and distractions than a single labor strike or a public relations crisis. The system doesn't need you to be happy or fulfilled. It needs you compliant, slightly broken, and perpetually feeling like you owe the world a debt you can never repay. This is guilt-based capitalism, where your feeling of inadequacy is the primary driver of consumption. You buy things to apologize to yourself for the life you aren't living. Every "I'm sorry" offered to a malfunctioning reality is a dividend paid directly to the shareholders of your own misery. They bank on your inability to stand tall, knowing that a person who apologizes for being right is a person who will never revolt, never demand better, and never break the glass walls of their cage. This is a structural requirement for frictionless labor in a globalized machine. The moment you stop apologizing, you become a glitch in their matrix. You suddenly gain weight, presence, and a voice that carries. That weight makes you harder to push around, which is precisely why the system trains you from birth to stay light, hollow, and ready to blow away at the first sign of disapproval. Digital platforms have turned this psychological bug into a feature. We now apologize for late replies to messages sent seconds ago, for long posts that contain actual thought, and for unpopular opinions that haven't been vetted by the mob. We've outsourced our very conscience to algorithms designed for mass approval. In the digital panopticon, your apology is a desperate plea to the invisible crowd. Please don't delete me. We are so terrified of the block button that we pre-apologize to soften the blow of our own existence. We've turned social interaction into a digital minefield where the only safe way to walk is on your knees, constantly signaling your harmlessness to the anonymous jury of the internet. In 20 years, if this trend continues, we will be a civilization of functional ghosts. We are building a world where no one takes responsibility for anything because everyone is too busy performing elaborate, hollow rituals of self-flagellation. We are becoming self-lubricating cogs, oiling the machinery of our own oppression with the quiet, salty tears of our impotence. We see this already in the apathetic politics of the day and the suffocating silence of modern offices, where massive injustice is tolerated as long as the perpetrator issues a sorry in the correct PR-approved font and tone. We are losing the vocabulary of indignation. The modern city is becoming one giant sterile waiting room for people who are too afraid to speak their truth. A faceless mass whispers apologies to cold concrete walls for the crime of occupying space on a dying planet. We will reach the end of our history not with a defiant bang, but with a whispered collective, sorry for the noise. This is the ultimate victory of the concrete box. You have become your own jailer, and the apology is the key you've decided to swallow to ensure you never have to face the terrifying freedom of your own voice. By the time you realize that your politeness was just a slow-acting poison, you will have already been erased. You've convinced yourself that being nice is a virtue, while in reality it's just the sound of your spirit being ground into fine dust by a world that never had any intention of apologizing to you. You are the architect of your own invisibility, and every sorry is another brick in the wall that will eventually bury you alive.